Hello, welcome everybody. It is crazy and I am beyond happy and shocked to welcome you to the first episode of our 4th season of the Mediavine Summer of Live. That, I don't know if that's as crazy as it is to me. I've been here for all 4. I'm Jenny Guy. I am the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Mediavine. I've been the host of all 4 seasons of the Summer of Live, and it is an exciting time for sure. If this is your first time on a Summer of Live episode, welcome. If you are a return Summer of Live viewer, welcome to you as well, and thank you for coming back. And if you're wondering what the heck a Summer of Live is, let me tell you. It is a wild and wonderful thing that we decided to do 4 summers ago, more than 4 summers ago, where we said, okay, we're going to go live every single week during the summer with a different guest, a different expert from the content creation industry to provide as many tips as we possibly can during the summer to help content creators build sustainable businesses. So that is why we are here again. We have an incredible lineup planned for this summer, and we are starting out with a wonderful guest. I'm thrilled that she's here. Carrie Forrest is here. We are talking about growing traffic. Carrie, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right,
I'm so excited.
It is very exciting, and the topic we're kicking off with is something that involves all of us, because I think every content creator is pretty much always on the quest for more traffic. That is something we are always looking for. And before I introduce Carrie, I'm actually going to tell the audience, you guys, if you have questions for Carrie, please go ahead and drop them into the comments, and I will do my best to get them answered. However, we are going to be, with this Summer of Live, we're on an express. It's like an express lunch. We're gonna cook it in between 30 and 45 minutes, get you action-packed tips and items for you to go immediately and implement to improve your business, but it's gonna be fast. So let me introduce Carrie without any further ado. Carrie Forrest is the creator of Clean Eating Kitchen, a website dedicated to gluten-free and dairy-free recipes. A cancer survivor, Carrie is also passionate about healthy eating and loves visiting farmers markets for fresh produce. She is passionate about helping other women achieve better health through clean eating. When she's not in her kitchen, Carrie can be found hanging out with her 2 cats, who are basically her children, hiking, or spending time with her husband. And one of my favorite facts in here, Carrie has been a Mediavine publisher since 2014 and will celebrate her 13th year of blogging this weekend. Yes. Happy early anniversary.
Thank you.
You're a teenager, Carrie.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Well, you've seen a lot of changes in the blogging industry in that amount of time.
Yes, so many changes. Definitely an old school blogger here. So if you're an old school blogger, shout out in the comments.
Yes. Say hi to us. Everybody's saying hi and saying hello. If you hear street noise, I am not in Oklahoma as I typically am. I am in a hotel room in Chelsea. So I will mute myself if the honking or yelling gets too loud. But that's what's happening. Okay. All right. So let's start here. Let's start at the very top, just so we're all on the same page. Carrie, would you quickly define page views and tell us how they're different than sessions?
Yes, so page views are the total number of pages that are visited by a viewer, whereas sessions would be essentially the number of viewers. So page views is usually a bigger number than sessions because a user, I wouldn't say typically, but often visits more than one page on your site. But of course, since we get paid by page views, essentially, we want the most page views that we can get.
So either way that you're doing it, Mediavine counts with sessions because it was certain ways that people count their page views. For instance, if there's a slideshow where you're clicking and you're going to a different page, every single one of those is a page view. Sessions is one person. So that's one person in a 24-hour period, and that's every page they visit. So either way, we're wanting to elevate our traffic. And that's what we're talking about here, which is exactly right. So let's talk about why page views are your metric of choice, like you said, and why they're important to the overall health of your business.
Right. So either page views or sessions, we'll kind of count them as one topic. But essentially either one is going to equal your money, your revenue. It's going to equal your authority, really. The more people who are visiting your site, the more authority you're going to build. You're also going to be building more influence the more page views that you develop. So for me, having a page view goal has been my strategy for growing a business, whereas some people might do other things like Instagram growth or selling ebooks, which are all legitimate ways of growing influence and authority. But for me, my main goal has been growing page views.
I love that. So your focus, and this is something that we preach a lot at Mediavine, your focus is on SEO, evergreen traffic, building and investing in your business in that way, which we absolutely love. Like you said, Instagram or social media is another great way to, can be a great way to drive traffic to your site. But we've talked about this a lot here. I don't know if anyone out there is pissed off at Pinterest right now. There's a lot of people in the Facebook group that we see, those algorithms shift. Not that SEO algorithms don't shift sometimes, but they're a little more consistent. And also you're given a roadmap by Google and by other people. They tell you how to increase your SEO. So it's a really smart way to invest in your business and your overall growth. Love that. Okay, so now to the topic at hand. I would love to hear just a little bit about your quest for this 1 million monthly page views. What's magic about that number? What made you pick it?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to say full disclosure, I have not reached 1 million monthly page views. I've gotten close. I think I got about 2/3 there in February of this year, and I'm going to tell you some of the exact strategies that I use to get there. But I just wanted to put it out there. I have not yet reached this goal. That's why it's like my quest to get to 1 million monthly page views. But essentially, it is kind of an arbitrary number, but it sounds pretty amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny, but I'm assuming that it would put you in probably the top percentage of, maybe not the top percent of bloggers, but I'm assuming somewhere in the top 5 to 10% of bloggers reach 1 million monthly page views. I mean, it's just gotten more and more competitive year after year. And but I think, my kind of focus on page views overall, I think it really did start back around 2010 or 2011. I'm thinking it's pre-Mediavine, but it was like you heard bloggers talking about getting to this 100,000 monthly page views. And I'm telling you, I'm going to show a screenshot of my keywords, I think. But it took me, I didn't even reach 100,000 monthly page views until not that long ago, a few years ago. So, but I really started my focus on SEO only a few years ago. But I think it was back in the old days, there was this 100,000 monthly page view number, and that got stuck in my head. I think if you're starting out, you can definitely set that 100,000 as your goal, like I did. And then it's kind of amazing. Once you hit 100, I felt like it pretty quickly, I got to the 250. And then it took a few more years to get closer to the 500,000. So I wouldn't say it gets easier as you get more, but you learn so much along the way. So set that 100,000 as your first goal, and you will learn a ton by the time you get there.
I love that. Setting milestones for yourself that are actually achievable, starting out as a newer publisher and then saying, I want 1 million. Yes, great. Naturally, we all do, but then going ahead and making those attainable goals. So we talked about burnout on this show, and I think burnout is real. And if you are setting unattainable or impossible goals, that's tough. But if you're setting more attainable, realistic goals for yourself and celebrating the heck out of yourself when you achieve them, I don't know if anyone else has this, and this is a little off topic, but celebrate yourself, you guys. When you achieve something, even if it's hard when you're by yourself and you're working alone, get yourself that blogging tribe and celebrate your wins, because if you don't, you will reach that burnout faster. I have a question out there for the audience. Audience roll call. Anyone else out there on a quest for 1 million monthly page views or 100,000 monthly page views? If you're out there and you've achieved a traffic milestone for yourself, tell us in the comments and tell us how you got there. All right. So let's get to the nuts and bolts. How are you working towards $1 million, and what strategies and tactics are you employing that worked for you?
Okay, so I have a few big picture ideas that I thought it's good to talk about. So, first of all, you kind of need to make sure that your niche or your blog topic has decent search volume. And so, if you started a blog that's super niche, it might make sense just to make sure that people are actually searching for those topics. And there's nothing wrong with going super niche, but what you might end up having to do is having multiple blogs in different niches to reach overall a million monthly page views. But I actually made this mistake. I started a second blog, a really niche blog, and it has no search traffic. So it is just not doing anything. I don't work on it or anything, but I made that mistake. So you can do that through basic keyword research tools. You can search your niche topic and see how much search volume there is. So that's important. I think technical SEO is extremely important, and that's a really boring topic to me. And that's stuff like core web vitals and making sure your blog is really fast or fast enough. And I personally outsource my technical stuff because that will be the first thing to make me want to throw my computer out the window. But they are important, those technical SEO things. And I will show you a slide later, and you'll see where I had a big issue in 2019. I had been using my headers wrong. So, like you're supposed to have your title as a H1, and then you go H2. And if you use H3s, H4s, I messed that up. I didn't know. I just liked how the headings made things look on my site. So a small thing like that, I got dinged for many months by Google. So that's what I mean by technical SEO. I would say that you have to be really strategic when you make page views your goal. So you can't, like what I did for my first 8 years of blogging, which was just to pick a topic and write about it or make a recipe, a random recipe. That's not strategic if you really want to go after page views. I'm sure all food bloggers know at this point it would be impossible to write a recipe for chocolate chip cookies and rank on the first page. So you have to be strategic at this point because the market is pretty saturated. And that's where keyword research is going to come into play. But the third big factor or big picture point that I have is that you really are going to have to work hard. And I personally don't know any other food bloggers who aren't basically working their butt off day after day. And so you have to work hard. You have to work smart. You have to be very focused when you're going after page views. So like Instagram can be a bright, shiny object, but I've had to ignore Instagram because I'm really focusing on page views and posting every day. I know that's not something everybody can do, but it's not unheard of when you're going after page views as your goal.
I love all of those suggestions, and you covered a lot of ground there. I think, so just for me to weigh in, I think you definitely want to find, and it sounds like you really hit that, is finding that sweet spot between what people want to read and what you want to write, and how you can take those together. While you might not be able to, and you won't probably for a while, be able to rank on page 1 for chocolate chip cookies, you might be able to rank on page 1 for brown butter marshmallow chocolate chip cookies. So you can still make, as long as people are searching, you just have to take what you want to do and what is people are looking for. Because honestly, if you're wanting to earn money, what's the point of writing about it if nobody's going to read it? That's the bummer part about it all. Mm-hmm. And also posting every day or increasing your posting frequency is something that we really talk about a lot in all of our SEO. We have a series that's free that we will include at the end called SEO Like a CEO, but it's about using your interlinking strategy to raise up your own authority on specific topics. And the only way you can do that is to produce more content. So all very, very great advice from you. Okay. So now I want to get really specific. I want to talk about your results when employing the strategies and tactics you've been telling us about. And I'm actually going to add in a couple of visual aids here. Let me grab that. There we go. All right.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So this was the visual aid I was referencing. This is my keywords, but and this comes from SEMrush, which, by the way, I don't have a paid account with. You can create a free account, and I think you get 10 clicks per day. So for those wanting to save money or on a budget. And so I took this from their site, and I think it's an estimate of my site's keywords. And so you can see where I had that increase. So I started working on keyword research. I started working on page views really around early 2018, where you can see that's where I came on the map. And then 2019, I started to see some good results. And then I had that issue with my technical SEO, and you could see it dinged. I mean, Google, there was a core update, and I got hurt from that. I mean, you can see it was almost a year. So I mean, you have to have some gumption to be a blogger anymore. But I would say the last 2 years, focusing on this page view strategy and really focusing on keyword research, you can see that my overall keywords and my overall traffic, which isn't shown in this, but has gone up. So I wanted to, before I jump into some exact ways that I've used keyword research and some other tactics, I just want to talk about updating old posts, because that's one of my really big strategies. And so updating old posts it's something that I've really started working on recently. And the idea that I think is so fascinating is that it's really fun to go after new keywords, but if you're not paying attention to your old keywords, it's very likely that somebody's going to publish a recipe or a blog post on that keyword that you're ranking, say, in the top 3 for, and it's going to be better than yours, and it's going to rank higher than yours. So if you're not paying attention, and say your blog is over 2 to 3 years old, I would say, maybe even over a year old, it really makes sense to start paying attention to your older posts and keeping track of them. So you're tracking your keywords, which you can do in a software like Key Search, which is what I use. I think, I mean, you could even use your Google Search Console. I think that's a little bit more effort. But if you kind of have an idea of what your top 10 to 20 posts are, and you're keeping tabs on those, if they start to lose ranking, so if you were ranked number 1, now you're number 4, then next month you're number 7, then it's time to update that post. And it's kind of hard because you're like, if you're in this mode of doing keyword research, you want to keep publishing new content, but it kind of breaks your flow. You have to go back to the old content. But what I've done is, like, on my content calendar, I leave space for updating the old posts. And I know there is some controversy about like changing the date if you update a post. I personally do. If I update photos, or if I write more than 1 or 2 new paragraphs in a post, I will republish it with a current date. I just think that is like really important to remember. And I've heard the advice that for every new blog post that you do, you should be updating either 1 to 2 old posts. So, I mean, that really puts it in perspective, really the importance of updating old posts. So I wanted to show you, I also wanted to point out in this screenshot before we move on, that in the past, I looked on my Mediavine dashboard, the past 4 years. So that's, I guess would be what, 2018. I looked at my revenue on my Mediavine dashboard. I just took a day-to-day comparison, and my Mediavine revenue has increased 2,045%. So that's, I think that speaks for itself. So let's go into a really specific example of a post that I saw was actually, I published it and it didn't do anything. So Jenny, if you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pause for a quick
Okay.
second and say that Caroline said she's been updating old posts recently over the last 6 months, and my sessions have almost doubled. It's so valuable to update old content. And I love that ratio of doing one new post to updating. You said 1 to 3 new old posts, depending on how much content you have sitting on your site, obviously.
Right.
Fantastic. Okay, here we go. Next slide.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about a specific blog post that I have and that I republished, and just so you can see how much benefit I'm getting from the republishing. So I originally published a post in January of 2020. It was called How to Eat More Green Vegetables. I didn't really I don't think I was doing much keyword research at that time. But at this point, that keyword, you can see right now, it has, so if anyone's unfamiliar with key search, this is the dashboard, and it is a paid tool, but I'm not an affiliate. I don't even know if they have affiliates, but it's not super expensive. And I think it's really helpful. So in the circle that I did with a really bad circle, it shows the volume. So it's an estimate of the monthly search volume of the benefits of green vegetables. Okay. So originally it was published as How to Eat More Green Vegetables. I republished it as Benefits of Green Vegetables without doing much research. It didn't do anything. I think my original post was really old. So it had 320 month, and it was a score of 46, which is a competition score. So Jenny, if you want to show the next slide. So I did a little keyword research earlier this year, just a few months ago. So I saw that old post, Benefits of Green Vegetables, was not doing anything. I was getting 0 monthly traffic from it. It was like ranked, I don't know, on page 3 or 4, wasn't doing anything. And this is an example of if you kind of keeping tabs on your old posts. So I saw that post was not giving me any benefit. So I did some research using my new keyword research tools, which is key search. And I saw, okay, so Best Green Vegetables had a volume of 720. So I thought, okay, well, that's better. The competition score, I think is a little bit easier. So I republished that. I rewrote the article as Best Green Vegetables. And you can see I ranked for this keyword it looks like I'm number 6. But then Jenny, if you want to go to the next slide, Google actually ranked me for green vegetables, which I was thrilled. Now, this isn't something you can necessarily predict. This keyword I didn't think that I could rank for this, because you can see in the right column, it shows it has a monthly search volume of 33,000 and a higher competition score. It's showing red because it's showing that for my blog specifically, that's probably too hard, but Google's ranking me number 4 for that keyword now. And it wouldn't have if I had not, because my original article was more like health kind of topic, like benefits of green vegetables, how to eat more green vegetables. When I rewrote it and republished it as Best Green Vegetables, now I'm getting a ton of monthly search traffic for this, whereas that post was sitting on my site with absolutely no traffic. And now I think it's in my top 10 or top 20 blog posts. So that's an example. And it wasn't that much effort. And this was actually a non-recipe post. So I didn't have to shoot new photos or rewrite a recipe. I just kind of wrote a blog post about green vegetables. So that, I think, is a really good example. And I have multiple articles and recipe posts that I've had this type of success with. So I think that kind of covers why, what kind of success you can have with republishing old content.
So I'm going to jump in here because I think that's the end of the slides, but I was going to jump in and we have a couple of questions in the comments. One is, do you have the dates in your URLs? I do, so I tend not to republish because it would change the URL. So we have always been really specific about not changing the URL. So are you changing both the title and the URL when you are updating the posts?
No, never, 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 never change your URL. Even if, now I think if your blog automatically updates the date, you have to do something with your host, or somebody more technical than me can figure out how it will not update it. It doesn't matter if it shows an old date and you've republished it, but you definitely do not want to change your URL. And I am emphasizing that because I've done it in the past, and it's really Google. You'll lose all your anybody who's linked to that post. You'll lose that link juice or the authority on that post.
Yes.
If you have like Pinterest traffic coming, or you have an old pen, you'll lose that traffic. So definitely do not change the URL.
Do not change your URLs ever. Definitely don't do that. And we actually have had some conversations about here with John Mueller and from Google, and he's talked a lot about showing both dates. So if this doesn't impact the URL, but you can have settings in different, depending upon your WordPress framework, what you're using, you can set it up to where it shows the updated date and the original posting date. And that is a great way to show that the post has gotten extra love, to show it to Google. You can also go in and automatically recrawl, ask them to, they'll crawl it eventually, but if you update, you can ask them to crawl it. There's different ways to take care of that. So thank you for clarifying on that. Okay. Let's talk about this, because this is something I've seen people post in a bunch of different places, especially in the Facebook group. And I've seen people ask at conferences, wherever we are. What happens when you hit that page view plateau? Let's talk about what a page view plateau is in your opinion, and what you've done in the past when you've hit one of those, and what might help people in the audience is when they've hit that wall.
Yeah, I think that can happen for a variety of reasons. And I think one thing that I've noticed is doing the keyword research can get tedious, and you can just kind of get burned out trying to find new keywords. I think in a way that's why republishing or updating your old content can be kind of refreshing, because you don't have to do a ton of work to update your old posts. But I think one way, if you are starting to see your page views stagnate, or you're just not seeing a lot of excitement, I think one of the most important things that you can do is to look at your top 10 posts and do some variations of what's already doing well. And most likely you wouldn't even have to do a ton of keyword research, or you can probably, if like, for instance, I rank really well for beet juice. And so I did a post on the benefits of beet juice, like the health benefits of beet juice, which was very competitive. But because I was already ranking for beet juice, who knows how Google decides what you're an authority in. But for some reason, they think I'm like the beet juice queen. So I did a post on the benefits of beet juice. I did the beet juice powder. I did some basic keyword research and found that there were people looking for these topics. But I did beet carrot juice, and these are all doing well. So that's I think a simple way to try to get some more new posts that will do well. I think,
Carrie, I'm going to pause you for 1 second. You're actually describing exactly what we have in the blog post series. If anyone's heard of it, we call it the parboiling thing, because it's what Eric used on Food Fanatic. He found that sweet spot where you're not ranking number 1 and you're not ranking number 10. You're in that 3, 4, 5 range where there's a decent amount of search traffic. You're doing pretty darn good, but you're not all the way there. So when he found that we were doing pretty well for parboiling, we went on a parboiling tear and started doing parboiling carrots, parboiling potatoes, parboiling parsnips, why you parboil, what is parboiling, and creating all of that associated content, that related content, and then linking through all of them, having that parent parboiling post at the top and that cornerstone content. So all of that worked together to continue to raise up, and we became, it's a very distinguished title. We became the parboiling queens of the internet. So that's something you can do when you find that, and just a little bit of extra. And you're right, instead of reinventing the wheel for your beet juice recipes, you're able to say, I'm already doing well on this. I can just create the supporting content to help raise it up in the rankings. So I want to make sure my team already has it, but we'll have that parboiling. That's step-by-step how to do it. So fantastic advice. Love that.
Yeah. And I also wanted to mention web stories, and who knows, how much longer they're going to be getting traffic. I don't know. My web story traffic has gone up and down, but I did start I was late to the web story game. I really only started publishing them in November of 2021. So not even a year ago, but the web stories, especially if you just do some web stories on your top 5 to 10 blog posts, you don't have to do a web story for every one of your new posts or every one of your old posts, but I've noticed that my popular blog posts, if I do a web story, they will show on the first page. It's usually only on your phone. I don't see it on my desktop. I don't see web stories, but on my phone, I see web stories. They show as visual stories. And I think web stories are now about 12 to 13% of my total page views. So they are well worth doing, at least, like I said, for some of your top blog posts.
Love that. And I'm glad that you're seeing an ROI, and that you're actually somehow, can you quickly, I know it, do you have any tips on creating those web stories in a way that gets that traffic back to your website?
Oh, that's a good question. I've noticed that a lot of the ones that get traffic are roundup web stories. So I have some, because like I said, Google thinks I'm like really an authority on juice. So I have like celery juice and beet juice and carrot juice. And so I did a blog post on the best juices for beginners. And that post did okay. I don't think it really ranks very high, but then I did a web story on best juices for beginners. And so each of the web story slides is a juice and has a link to that, to that recipe on my site. So that's kind of what I call like a roundup web story. It's not specific one recipe. It's more like whetting the appetite to try to find new recipes.
So smart. Rather than giving them, like, I know this is why buy the cow when you buy the horse, or why buy the milk when you, sorry, oh my God, I'm going to leave it. You know what I'm saying? Why buy the beet when you can get the juice for free? So what we're saying is, rather than a step-by-step how-to video, you're doing a roundup of all of your juice recipes, which is enticing your reader to go in as a teaser and click through to get the full recipe for that juice.
Right. And I'm not doing any video content on my web stories. They're all static images. And also, I know Google has said they want the web stories to be complete. So, but in my opinion, like in this web story, best juices for beginners, there's some information about like juicing and maybe like what kind of juicer or what kind of equipment you want. So in a way it is complete. It's just that the user does have to click through to my site to get the recipe.
Love that. And yeah, and they should have to. You're putting your work into your web stories. You want people to be able to click back through. I just realized that there was one more slide. Did you want to go back into your slides? I am so sorry I cut off on that.
Well, I think last slide is one of my kind of long-term strategies.
Let's do that. Let's talk about a long-term strategy. That sounds great.
Oh, yeah, actually, I think there's one after this, but this one, I guess, just shows you, okay, so this is from Ahrefs, which I do have a paid account with, and this screenshot is specifically for that best green vegetables post. So on the very top, so it shows you I'm getting about an approximately, what does that say, 6,400 clicks a month, whereas before it was nothing. You can see that big spike is when I republished it just a few months ago. So that just visually shows that. And then I think there's one more slide, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm a very visual person. So in my mind, when I think about my blog as a whole, I think about I'm the ringleader. So I'm either that little person in the bottom left, or you could be the one in the top right. So you're the ringleader, and all your blog posts are members of the circus. They're all doing different things. They're all, one is riding a bicycle, a tricycle, a unicycle. One is a flying trapeze. And your job is to just keep track of everybody. And I don't know, it just kind of makes me smile when I think about my blog like that, because we all know that like a circus, it's a circus. Bloggers have really hard jobs in many ways. And so all your blog posts are all these performers. And when it's time to move the circus, so we're moving forward, say in time, we have to make sure that everybody's coming along. Nobody gets left behind, and everybody's performing. And that's just kind of how I think about blogging, which just kind of makes me feel like kind of silly and happy. I wanted to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is no question about the fact that bloggers are expected to be keeping up with so many different things. And I think particularly with everything that's happening with core web vitals and now moving into third-party cookies dissipating, the only constant in this industry is change, and you're expected to keep so much. So I very much appreciate that shiny object syndrome is not something that bloggers can fall for. Staying with this consistent evergreen SEO strategies for the long-term growth of your business. It's not a flash in the pan. It may not be overnight like maybe Pinterest was at one point, but it's definitely the sustainable growth that comes back year after year. So I love hearing that. And I love updating existing content. So we actually had a question here from Michelle. She said, did you do anything else when your traffic dropped other than updating new content, updating old content and writing new? I believe is what she meant there.
Right. Well, I actually did an SEO audit after that 2019 drop and realized that it was that technical issue. I never would have known that had I not done an audit. So I had no idea that I was using headers incorrectly. And then also just random things like broken links. Apparently, I mean, like I look at like a broken link, like say you have an Amazon link and then that item has gone out of stock, or the manufacturer, it's basically shows as an error page on Amazon. That's considered a broken link. And those things are really important to stay on top of. And there are tools that you can use, or you can get an audit done, which will point them all out to you. But that's like that technical SEO side. And so I stay on top of it now, but I had no idea that all that was so important back in 2018, 2019. And, I know now because I really got hurt. My traffic really got hurt by those technical SEO issues.
Yeah, that's great to know. And sometimes, getting some outside perspective can be a good idea. So I know you've already said this a little bit about one thing, but you've learned a lot as you've been growing. You've been blogging for your teenage blog, and you've shared a lot with us on what you should be doing, but I would love to hear anything you'd say not to do with that wonderful 2020 hindsight. You definitely said, do not change the URLs, which we are all the way on board with. Anything else that are not do's?
I would stay away from really competitive keywords. It's basically going to be a waste of your time, unless it's just a passion project for you. And like your users have been asking you, please, share, like around the holidays, somebody asked me for a gluten-free, dairy-free cream of chicken to help make holiday recipes. And I think I did the keyword research. There wasn't too much search volume on that, but I did it anyway because if a reader asks me specifically, so makes you feel so good when a reader reaches out. But overall, I would, dial in your keyword research. So you're being very strategic about going after keywords with, low competition, decent search volume that fit within your blog and you think you can rank for. I would say if you have blog posts that just are not doing anything. Google, like I have this one for edible sugar cookie dough, which I thought like the photos are beautiful. tooting my own horn, but Google will not rank me for that post. So rather than, I'm not going to reshoot it because the photos are really nice, I'm just going to let it go. I think I did a idea pin on Pinterest, and that one did really well. Not that it clicks through, but I'm just going to move on. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to delete it. I'm not going to no index it. I'm just going to move on. So just, it's okay. Maybe that is, doesn't go along with my circus. Maybe that's a fired circus performer in my like circus analogy. I think not being clear on which keywords you're targeting is a mistake. And then I think also, if you have a post that's doing really, really well right now, and then a year from now, it's not doing well, I think it would be a mistake if you didn't revisit it and try to get it back up. Because if Google has already ranked it high for you, then you have, like, there's really good potential for you to get it back in the first, like, say, the top 3. So ignoring it and not updating it would be a mistake. And then I think lastly, just having, if you start to feel like blogging is too competitive and that you're never going to get it anywhere, you're never going to get to reach your page view goal, I think that would be a mistake. So just like trying to always have this abundant mindset that there's room for all of us, because I really do believe that. I think, even if I know there's lots of other gluten-free and dairy-free bloggers out there, and I could look at them as my competition, but I don't, because we're all really different, and we're all going to create recipes or articles that are different and have our own unique perspectives. So just having that like abundant mindset that there's room for everybody.
Yes, that there is not a finite amount of people who want to look at yummy food or great travel tips or your fitness, whatever it is. There's a lot of big audience out there, and there's space for a lot of people. I love that. Okay. So let's close out with, we do have one more question. He says, do you use Content Explorer on Ahrefs to get articles to write?
No, Content Explorer. Honestly, I don't use Ahrefs to its fullest extent. The thing that I use Ahrefs the most for is I will take an actual URL from my website, I will put it into Ahrefs, and then I will look at their estimate of Google search traffic so I can see how it's performing. I find that easier than using Google Search Console. But like I said, I'm not super technical, so I know I'm not using Ahrefs to its fullest extent. That's kind of why I like key search. So and when I write an article, I'm not really, like, I have my main keyword. I think that's maybe another thing. Like, you have your target keyword, but you don't necessarily, in my experience, I'm not trying to use like secondary and tertiary keywords. I am really just focused on one keyword. I'm not sure if that's like an industry standard, but that's what's worked for me. And I try not to make it too complicated.
And part of it is balancing, like you said, your reader asks for a thing, you give it. We had somebody else earlier say that their reader wanted chocolate chip cookies, so they wanted to write it. That's great. Yeah. That's great. Finding that balance, that line. It's with everything that we do. So thank you so much for this, Carrie. I'm going to actually make an announcement, but the final question for you is, as we love to close out every Mediavine program, please share a couple of action items. How can our audience kickstart their progress? And I will come back to you in just a moment. Guys, the Summer of Live continues on next week. We're actually going to be on Tuesday, which is going to be our regular day for the rest of the summer. Tuesday, June 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. We're going to have Allie Grummert. She's the founder of Duet, which is an email marketing service. And we're going to talk about continuing on that quest for page views and with traffic, 3 strategies to boost your site traffic with email marketing. So we are going to have that next week. Very exciting. And again, thank you to Carrie. Before we go, we'd love to get those action items from you. Okay. So I would say very soon, today or tomorrow, look at your top keywords and brainstorm maybe 2 or 3, or look at your top posts and brainstorm 2 or 3 keywords that you could do around your top posts. Secondly, always keep your user in mind. Like Jenny said, it almost feels like we're writing for Google, but that can be very clinical, and it can take kind of the fun out of blogging. So you really do need to keep
in mind that you're writing for real people, and real people are going to be reading what you create. And then, okay, I have two more. Celebrate your wins along the way. And then my last piece of advice, which I heard this, I don't know where I heard this, but it said, be so good they can't ignore you. So I just kind of use that as a philosophy of how I live my life. So I'm not like a super, I don't know, out there person, but I try to do things like in the background. Maybe that's why I'm, such a good match for blogging, but I try to make my blog so good that it just can't be ignored. So everything I do, I'm trying to do it to, just a really high standard. And that's just how I go through my life.
And that is great, very sage advice. At the end of the day, the best SEO strategy is to make really good content and to make more of it, and to update your existing content, make it even better. Incorporate suggestions from your readers or questions. Add that into the body of the content. There's so much, and I think that's the beauty and the curse of blogging is it's never finished. There's always more work to be done. So thank you for taking us with you on your quest. We have shared in the comments a link. We will have some of the links to our free resources and then some suggestions from Carrie. Thank you so much for being here, Carrie. Everybody else, we will see you next Tuesday. Happy Summer of Live, and we will talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.